Ton of news today. Ton of news. Welcome aboard Big Sills. National Football Show. And wow, just when you thought the news couldn't get any bigger out of Philly, bombshells hit today. Eagles lose both coordinators. And now, what direction does that team take? Interesting, too, how young these coaches are today in the NFL. Remember what I told you a couple days ago. One of the most important things that you're seeing with a lot of teams now, they're going with the analytic guys. They're going with people that work with the front office now. They're not going with the old school offensive coordinator that's got a system. And they want every player to conform to that system. They want coaches nowadays that are going to be able to put systems around the talent that they have in the building, which means they want guys who are going to be able to work with personnel departments. Hey, look, and look, the whole thing with Gannon and Steichen, they didn't have a very good Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan didn't either. And he ended up getting the San Francisco 49er gig. Just remember that, okay? By the way, Gary Cobb, at 4:30 Eastern, Fox 29 Philadelphia will be with us. We'll get his take on all of this as well. I'm going to get to all your takes today here, but I want to throw this at you. We'll talk about the impact of Steichen leaving and also Gannon leaving, but I want to throw this at you. You know, Shane Steichen was 24-6 as the play caller in Philadelphia. He was 24-6. Whatever you think about his knowledge of the game and whatever you think his situational play calling was, he did win 24 or 30 games when he had the main headsets as offensive coordinator on. Okay? That's an impressive record. From the 2-5 start from 2 years ago, Shane Steichen as the OC was 24-6. Okay? 24-6. The most probable situation will be Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach. Remember something here, guys. Howie Roseman hired all of these coaches along with Nick Sirianni for a reason. The Eagles like to elevate from within. And they really don't like to go out of house to bring a new guy in. And I'm for that. I am. It's player comfortable. It's a player being comfortable. You want to keep Jalen as comfortable as possible. Okay? Shane Steichen, again, 26-4. Hey, we could talk about the Super Bowl and how bad it was in the second half. Still, he was pretty awesome. And Jalen got better. You know, I threw this out at the Sports Take, guys, and I'm going to throw this at you here. How about Eric Bieniemy being the new offensive coordinator / head football coach in Philadelphia? Let's take a look at the history here. Do the Eagles like Andy Reid, guys? They hired Doug Peterson. Do they like those kind of guys? Yeah. What's the one area that you still want to see Jalen Hurts getting better at? It's throwing the ball. Not saying he's not improving. It's not a rip. It's about elevating. Remember, Jalen went in the offseason to see Tom House. Why not bring a guy like Eric Bieniemy into the fold here? Look, like I said, I think the no-brainer is Brian Johnson, but I could see Gannon, who was just named the head coach of the Cardinals, Steichen, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I could see Gannon taking Brian Johnson with him to Arizona so that he could turn Kyler Murray around. Bidwells are going to have to outbid, and they're going to have to put an assistant head coaching tag on that because you can't have a lateral move higher. You've got to add something to the job distinction, and that would be assistant head coach. What is the fastest way for Brian Johnson to be a head football coach in the NFL? Stay in Philly or go with Jonathan Gannon? His agent is going to have to figure that out, and the money's going to play a factor here. I think the Bidwills are going to have to outbid Jeffrey Lurie if they're going to keep him in Philadelphia. And I do believe that he stays. But I would entertain Eric Bieniemy. I would. I wouldn't change a damn thing on Jalen Hurts. But for me, I think they want to elevate from within. Personally, I think they're going to elevate the linebacker coach as the defensive coordinator. These are all Howie's guys. Every single one of those assistant coaches are all Howie's guys. Don't be shocked if the linebacker coach is elevated as the DC. What you don't want to have is a whole different change in philosophy. Okay? You don't. Jalen's comfortable with Brian Johnson. Okay? He's comfortable with him. And I could see that playing itself out. Okay? I thought it was kind of an interesting conversation, though, Bieniemy to Philly. He's got to get out of Kansas City. He will never be a head football coach as an offensive coordinator with Patrick Mahomes. He'll never get a job. He will never get a job under the shadow of Andy Reid. He will never get a job. If he wants to be a head coach, he's got to leave that situation. Okay? He's got to. I mean, he's banging his head against the wall in Kansas City. He is. He's not going anywhere. Jonathan Gannon leaving. Jonathan Gannon leaves at the right time because next year you're playing some pretty dynamic quarterbacks. I think Jonathan Gannon was an absolute fraud in Philadelphia, and I think that's the worst hire on the planet. Good luck to you out in Arizona. I think unless he puts great assistant coaches around him, how could he too? Who would he possibly know? Who would he possibly know as such a young guy to bring in to Arizona? I just don't see it. I really don't. I don't see it. And he'll be exposed out there. He's the next Nathaniel Hackett, in my opinion. I've never been impressed with him because you know why? I'll tell you why my criticism of Jonathan Gannon. He never fixed problems in Philadelphia with scheme and with construction of a defense. He changed it with personnel. Okay? He changed it with personnel. He never schematically changed his ways. It was the players that Howie brought in. It was the players that Howie brought in. Okay? It was never something schematically. Like, they never fixed the defensive run game. That's on him. It was never fixed. It was the shitty teams that I said all year the Eagles played. And by the way, they took care of business, but at the end of the day, my friends, he never fixed anything. And when he had to play against an elite quarterback, he was destroyed every single time. To me, this is a media hire. I don't get it. You hire a defensive coach for Kyler Murray. Man, you better have some really great ideas on who Kyler Murray wants to be the offensive coordinator on that new coaching staff in Arizona. You got a lot of work to do with him. That $46.1 million deal that you got on the table right now for him, and you're not going to see him until next October, man, that first year for Gannon is going to be a rough one. Good riddance. Good riddance. I believe that the Eagles are going to elevate from within. I think they'll look at a couple guys. Jared Mayo, maybe from the Patriots, who works on that coaching staff up in New England. New England's defense was pretty good. There's a guy that's out in Seattle that works with Pete Carroll that was a Miami Hurricane who's done a really great job with Pete and is a hot name for a potential defensive coordinator. I could see somebody like that, maybe even Mike Zimmer. Would you think of hiring Mike Zimmer? Mike Zimmer's a hell of a defensive coordinator. He's a hell of a coordinator. So the Eagles are going to take their time, not in any rush. They want to make sure, and first and foremost, who you're bringing back. By the way, know this, guys. Know this. You can't. How are you going to hire a coordinator when you don't know what people are coming back? How are you going to know? How do you know what you have no idea. You have 4 guys under contract on the defensive side of the football. How do you know what you're going to look like? Right? Here's another one for you. You know, I was listening to the Sports Take guys talking about Bradbury and Slay. Man, oh man, oh man. Are you really going to pay $30 million for zone corners? Okay? Eagles, Sills, would you go after Eric Bieniemy as OC? Eagles, I kind of opened the show with that. I don't know his fundamentals on the RPO. You really don't have to really coach the RPO, do you? That's really a decision by Jalen. The RPO is in the quarterback's hands. The passing game, on the other hand, is in the offensive coordinator's hands. So to me, it's if those guys could work together. Look, the Eagles love Andy Reid guys. They hired Doug Peterson, as I said. Okay? Would Eric would be on an island. He'd be his game and his show. But that means the Eagles have to go out, and they would have to go out of the building and out of the NovaCare Center. I think their number one priority is trying to keep Brian Johnson, because I think that's who Jalen wants. And this is really about what Jalen wants here. The defensive coordinator, I think you've got to wait and see who comes back first. You don't even know what your secondary looks like. You have no idea what your linebacking core is going to look like. How could you hire a defensive coordinator? Now, maybe that defensive coordinator would be in a better position when we're talking about who to keep, not to keep. Right? Maybe you hire him first. I'll tell you what, there is so much work to do for the Eagles in the offseason. There's a ton of work. Free agency, drafting, coordinators now. Boy, I'll tell you what, for a team that won the NFC, there are a ton of question marks going into the mini camps and into the draft. DC says, I'm so glad Gannon is gone. I don't know if it was the corners or Gannon's philosophy. I think Slay has man coverage ability. It was Gannon's philosophy that neutered them. Your takes have been great recently. DC, thank you. Yeah, don't ever tell me the Eagles had the best corners in the NFL when you're playing zone. DC, how do you know that? A ton of work for them and a boatload of content for us. Absolutely. Dude, this will never be boring all the way through, in my opinion, until the fall camp. There is a ton of stuff to hit on here. By the way, I got into a back and forth with Seth Joyner on Twitter, and I love Seth. He and I are great friends, and I'm so happy that we can go back and forth like this, and we're going to get him on later in the week here. Can we steal Steve Spagnuolo? He's not leaving Andy Reid. He's not leaving Andy Reid. Michael says Jalen Hurts and Brian Dawkins are the only true MFN leaders I've seen for this team in 25 years. Jalen's a leader. This is for you, Big Sills. Al Golden from Notre Dame. Bob! Boom! Bob! I'll tell you what. Oh, my God. Bob, you just got my blood boiling, and you know that. I hate that guy. Sills, what position should we draft? I actually have that. Fair enough. I guess we'll find out about Slay. I just, DC, you can't tell me that you have the best cover corners when you can't stop elite quarterbacks and you play zone coverage. And I'm not paying $15 million for a zone corner. All those guys had to do all year is play center field. Eagle fan. Yeah, it's Brian Johnson. I would love for him to learn more under Eric. And then Eric will be a head coach and Brian can learn more stuff with the RPO. Eric Bieniemy's got to get out of Kansas City. It's killing his career. Look, he's got enough with the shaded pass that he has. And he's done a great job at deflecting all that stuff. And Andy has put his name on the line for him. So I'm good with that. We all do stupid shit when we're young. You know, he was a very aggressive guy when he was a young player. Okay, I get all that. And he's been a model citizen since. I think he deserves an opportunity, but he's not going to get one as the offensive coordinator with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, two Hall of Fame guys. It's not going to get you a head coaching job. Nobody takes you. You want to know the truth about Eric Bieniemy? Nobody takes him serious. Nobody takes him serious. How does a guy like Shane Steichen get a job and Eric Bieniemy, who now has 2 Super Bowl rings as the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, can't get a sniff? Come on, man. This is not Big Sills' opinion. This is a fact. Nobody takes him serious. Nobody takes him serious. Lovie Smith as the defensive coordinator in Philly. Let me tell you something. If you ever got Lovie Smith as your defensive coordinator, that would be a coup. He's better than Vic Fangio. Lovie's a better coordinator. And don't let that personality fool you. This guy was on the same Tony Dungy coaching staff with Mike Tomlin, Herm Edwards, Monty Kiffin. There were so many great coaches on that staff that Tony put together in Tampa. And he was on that coaching staff. Dude, Raheem Morris was on that staff. He's better than Vic Fangio. I love Lovie Smith. And I think Lovie would take the job. But I think the coaching staff that the Eagles are looking at now, they want young analytical guys. I don't think they want the old dudes in the building any longer. Plus, you know what it does? It also gives Howie more autonomy. Lovie Smith's not going to listen to what Howie Roseman says about defensive coverages. A young analytical guy who knows the room is going to. Thank you, Eagle One. I appreciate that. Okay? Sills, any thoughts on Jim Knowles as NFL DC? Not bad. Got a good philosophy. Not quite Jim Johnson. Aggressive at times. He runs his defense from the linebacking core. Eagles are going to need some work at the linebackers in the offseason on what they're going to do. Okay? Lovey would be awesome. And hey, remember something. Don't always go for the big name. A lot of coaches nowadays like to go for the young analytical guys. Okay? Rex Ryan is a no-go. That will never happen. Absolutely never happen in Philly. That is the antithesis of what they don't want anymore in Philadelphia is Rex Ryan. It's not that he's too old. They don't want that mentality. They want people they can work with. They want departments working with each other. When you have old school guys, they don't like working with the personnel department. They think the personnel department should be seen and not heard during the season. That's not how that works in Philly. Okay? See, Howie likes to dip his beak in every room in the building. That's how he keeps control of everything. And some coaches don't like that. Okay? And when a coach starts putting their beak in Howie's room, you become Doug Peterson and fired. Okay? You become that and fired. Sills, your thoughts on Leftwich? Boy, I love Byron Leftwich. Think he was a scapegoat in Tampa. Byron Leftwich would be a great sign. I think but again, he's worked solely with drop back guys. That's only my hang up I'll tell you this. Like I said, if you're going to hire a guy like Byron Leftwich, you might as well just give the play calling back to Sirianni. Hey, and don't be shocked if that ends up going back to that. If Brian Johnson leaves, don't be shocked if Sirianni doesn't take over the play calling again. And they hire that would lead to a guy like Lovie Smith being hired as DC, where Nick wouldn't have to be looking at both sides of the ball. You hire if you want Nick, if Brian Johnson leaves, I would maybe think that could be the second option is Nick. Remember, he was hired for that. Think the Colts are going to draft an RPO quarterback in the draft? I actually have that. We're going to get to all of this. Say you can't franchise tag a guy with 1 year on his rookie year left. So the franchise tag is not going to work there. Greg Roman is interviewing, I forget with which team, as the offensive coordinator. See, Leftwich has worked with just drop back guys. Brady, Jameis Winston, dudes like that. I mean, does he have any RPO experience? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And that doesn't mean anything, 215, that Leftwich had a slow release. That doesn't, guy won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. I don't know. I don't. What's his history at RPOs? Will you do a mock draft? DC, I actually got my first one here today. Dude, stop with the Seth Joyner conversation. The NovaCare Center wants nothing to do with Seth Joyner as defensive coordinator. They may interview him just for respect. But Seth is opinionated, okay? And he would coach you hard. He would coach you hard. Do they want that kind of attitude in the building? I don't know. Okay? Matt Patricia, no way, no thank you. I have no interest in that. Everyone wants Seth, yeah, because it's a nice name and Seth knows the system. He loves the organization. He loves you. He wants great defense. Okay? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see the NovaCare Center doing something like that because Howie doesn't want to get into a conversation with Seth Joyner on what coverages to play for a respected team. He doesn't want that. He wants a collaborated. Did you not hear? He hired Vic. Let me throw this at you. How do you think Seth Joyner, having a 14-win team, would feel about Howie Roseman hiring Vic Fangio as a consultant for the Super Bowl? How do you think he would respond? How do you guys think he'd respond to that? This will answer your question right now about Seth Joyner, DC. How do you think Seth would have handled that? If all of a sudden Howie walks in and goes, hey, I hired Vic Fangio, gave him $200,000 to be a consultant for the Super Bowl. Would you think Seth would quit? Seth Joyner would quit. Steichen will draft Richardson. He's talking to kid from Florida for the RPO like Hurts. Maybe. That's a little high, though, on that pick, in my opinion. Okay? That's a little high. Yeah, Seth Joyner and the general manager might go into a fist fight. That's not something Howie wants. That answers your question. Howie Roseman brought Vic Fangio in, not Nick Sirianni. And so remember, the general manager is going to dip his beak in the coaching staff. That's why Seth can never be the defensive coordinator, because he wouldn't tolerate that. How about this? Let me put it here this way to you. Do you think Buddy Ryan would accept the owner of the team and the general manager of the team bringing in a consultant for the Super Bowl? Do you think Buddy Ryan would welcome that or not? Do you think? And by the way, Gannon had the numbers to go, I have the number one defense in the NFC, and you're bringing a consultant in? Yeah, we just want extra voices, and we want to get an extra opinion. Okay? It's not happening. Would you think they would trade for a star cornerback? I've got that also. We got top free agents to look at today. We got a ton of stuff today. Promise you, we're going to get to it all. I got top free agents. I got a mock draft 1.0, our first one of the year. We also have our top 10 quarterbacks post-Super Bowl. We're going to do all of this. Promise you guys. Promise you guys. All right. Let's get to the topics here. I had a back and forth with Seth Joyner on Jalen Hurts. And I want to read you something here. Guys, I'm not paying Jalen Hurts $50 million. I am not. I said this. Hey, Tone, can you do me a favor? Can you tell me what the guaranteed money that Kyler Murray got from that $46.1 million deal? Everyone keeps looking at the annual deal. Look at the guaranteed money. Because again, folks, the greatest contract in the NFL is not Patrick Mahomes' deal. The greatest contract in the NFL is the guy in Cleveland's deal. Okay? Because it's fully guaranteed. No strings attached. No bullshit. And you can do so many more things with it. The Watson deal is the deal. So look at this. Tone just said this. He goes like this. $103 million of that contract that Kyler Murray signed is guaranteed. Do you know what I want to give Jalen? I want to give him 3 years at $45 million fully guaranteed. And do you know what that comes to? Watch this. That's $135 million guaranteed. It's $35 more million than Kyler Murray is going to bring home. And on top of that, Kyler Murray may not ever see the end of that contract. Total guarantees 189.5. The signing bonus for Jalen, and he'll only be 27. When his contract is up, he'll make $60 million if he puts the same type of year in. Let me show you something here. Okay? By the way, I don't want to shortchange the kid, but I want to protect myself from injuries. And I want to protect my roster. I have to have a roster. Watch this. You tell me if any of these contracts, and I posted this on my Twitter page. Guys, I don't want to shortchange Jalen. I'm not trying to be cheesy with him. But he's not Joe Burrow. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Here's the contracts. I want to show you guys something. Top quarterback cap hits on your roster every year. Ryan Tannehill, 38.6. How'd that deal work out for Tennessee? F. Patrick Mahomes, 35.8, A+. Kirk Cousins, 31.4. How's that worked? Put a lot of stats up in numbers. No significant wins. D. Jared Goff on his second team, 31.5. D. Aaron Rodgers, 28.5 on your cap hit. They had their first losing season in quite some time. Why? Couldn't keep Devonta Adams. Carson Wentz, 28.3 on Washington's cap. F. Lamar Jackson, 23.0. D. You know why? Can't finish the year. Dak Prescott, 20.7 on your cap hit. D. Has never won a significant game. Sam Darnold, 19.9. F. Derek Carr, 20.4 on your cap hit. F. They're cutting him today. Matt Ryan, 19.7 on the Colts, cap hit. F. Russell Wilson, 18.6 on your cap hit. D. Why in the world would you want to go down this road again and have a lesser roster? The 49ers got to an NFC Championship game with Brock freaking Purdy. The point is, I don't want to cheeseball Jalen. I do not. But I'm not going nuts on a contract extension that's going to be 5-6 years like Seth wants. Absolutely not. You can't build a roster. The Cowboys are going to be lesser of a team, even more so next year. You can't, and the cap only went up $16 million, which means the cap will probably go up $18 million next year. We're not talking about significant enough hits to where the cap's going to go up where you're going to be able to keep everyone. What happens when Devonta Smith's contract's up? You're not keeping Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown at $25 million. If Devonta continues the progression he's on, he's going to command 20. There's not a team in the league with two $20 million wideouts and a $50 million quarterback. Not one. Shit, there's barely any teams with a $45 million quarterback and a $20 million wideout. Cooper Kupp took less money. No, Joseph. You see, Joseph goes, so you let Jalen walk? Absolutely not. But the shorter the term the deal and guaranteeing it. Jalen's 24 right now. You give him a 3-year fully guaranteed contract where he gets $135 million guaranteed. He's 27. Wouldn't you rather restructure your contract and redo your contract every 3 years? You're going to make more money. The Patrick Mahomes deal, dude, he's set. It's like a mortgage on a house. His interest rate is set for the next 10 years. If Jalen can give the team a hometown discount on the years, folks, not the money. I'm not trying to cheeseball him on the money. But on the years, that's the discount. Or let him play his rookie year out. To me, that's an insult. That's an insult. If you let Hurts and you say to Jalen, we're going to play this out. Boy, I'll tell you what, man. That conversation next year in 24, before March 12th, it won't be a little bit hot. And then we're talking about that kind of conversation where you have to overpay a guy. Everything you do in the offseason has to start with Hurts first. This has to start with Hurts. Free agency, your draft, everything, your assistant coaches, all has to start with Hurts. I know you think Howie Roseman is some sort of like magician, but he's got free agency, Hurts, draft, assistant coaches, his own staff being purged potentially. You got two assistant coaches that have been elevated to head coaches. Half that roster of coaches in Philadelphia will be wiped out. What are you going to do? I'll tell you this, of all the teams in the NFL that had a successful season, the Philadelphia Eagles will have more question marks going into the offseason than any team in the league. And that includes the shitty teams. Because one false mistake could put this franchise back. You draft the wrong guy. Jordan Davis sucks. Jacoby Dean never gets on the field. You overpay Jalen. You start losing players, significant ones. You don't re-sign the right ones. You go after poor free agents. Everything fell in line last year for Philly. Who's under the assumption that, remember something, 3 years ago, you were a 4-win team. You don't think you can revert back to that team in 18 months? You did off the 17 team. Lots of work to do. Boy goes, Jalen made leaps. Imagine how much better imagine how much better he'll be. Are you sure about that? The quarterback coach and the coordinator may be gone. Really? So you think he continues to elevate? I think that's wishful thinking. What happened to Carson Wentz when you lost your coordinator? Can you guys tell me? What happened to Wentz after that MVP season? And you extended him. And Frank got the Indianapolis job. How'd that work out? You're not cooked. STN, you're not cooked. You're not cooked. You're not cooked. You have to be strategically smart here. Okay? Chris goes, he got injured. No, he was extended. Wentz was extended. That's what he was. They gave Carson Wentz the extension, which turned out to be a disaster. That's the first, before the injury. He was extended. No, Ty, he was extended. They prematurely extended him. Jalen is different. You have no context for that. You have no context where anybody in the NFL, you have zero context for dual threat with that. He does not have a high ceiling. I have all the context I need. It's safe for both. I'm giving Jalen Hurts, I'm not doing this. Here's 45 per 90 guaranteed. I'm giving you the full contract guaranteed at $135 million. With the ability to extend it. What do the Eagles need to do to get back to? I'm going to get to all of this. I'll tell you what I would do too. I'll tell you exactly what I would do. If Jalen Hurts continues his progress, I sign him to a 3-year fully guaranteed deal, and I keep adding years on. Here's another 50. Here's 50. Here's 52. Here's 53. Jalen Hurts could be making guaranteed money for the next 5 years. Bruce has no idea what we're talking about. It's above you, Bruce. Just sit back and listen, son. I'll help you out. Okay? Sit back and listen, son. I'll help you. Seals, you doubted Hurts. No. 2020, like everyone else did. I still doubt his health. He's been hurt 2 years in a row. That's not going to change. And he's going to continue to get hurt. He's been hurt 2 years. He's missed games 2 years in a row. Yes? That's a fact. I don't care what the hell you say. He's not going to give you 17 games every year. He's just not. No player wants to be I didn't say year to year. I said a 3-year guaranteed contract off the extension of 1 year remaining on his rookie deal. You keep adding, you can add extension years on a contract. He'll be ahead of the game. If Jalen Hurts goes into this season and you sign him this offseason with a 3-year contract extension, he plays 2023 at an MVP level, add another year. You can do this, according to the new CBA. I don't want to. Hey, Chris, Shane can't tag him once he's over 45. The tag's 33. You can't tag him with a year remaining on his rookie contract. Mr. Rudy Poe's not my. Get this. See, this guy right here wants to pay Jalen Hurts $50 million over 5 years. And I got to the NFC Championship game with Brock Purdy. I got to the playoffs with Geno Smith. Great. Now you give Jalen lesser talent around him because you're paying him more. You're never going to be the same. You know, this may be the best Jalen's ever had it. This may be the best that he'll ever see. Because you know why? Follow me here. Trigger said, Hurts wins 9 games by himself. Pay the man. Absolutely not. Follow me here. Does Patrick Mahomes have a lesser team now than he did when he first went to the Super Bowl? Yes. He's not Patrick Mahomes, though. Jalen Hurts is not getting to a Super Bowl with a tight end and a bunch of dudes and a fair offensive line. He's not. He played on a loaded team this year. That's going to be maybe the best it's ever been. When you pay these guys, this is what happened to Russell Wilson. Why do you think Russell Wilson never went back to a Super Bowl after the beginning of? Because he was on a 3rd-round contract. Once they started paying him, ripped the defense apart, ripped the offensive line apart, never went back. Facts. Okay? Sills wants every quarterback to get paid except Hurts. Dude, okay, David. When Joe Burrow takes $51 million in Cincinnati, you could say goodbye to that entire offense. Because when Jamar Chase's contract is up, he's going to command $25 million. He ain't going to be in Cincinnati. They're going to choose between Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and they're going to stick with Joe Burrow. And they're going to stick with the lesser of the 2 wide receivers, T. Higgins, because he's not a $25 million guy. So they're going to stick with Higgins. Mixon probably will be on the team, maybe. But if I'm Cincinnati, I got to retool that offensive line still because I got to keep a. What's the sense of having a $51 million quarterback when you have a $2 old line? Hey, you got fancy wide receivers, and I got a $2 old line. It's not going to work. Cincinnati's in the same shit that Philly's in. It's not that. They're in the same position. By the way, another prediction. Stephon Diggs will not be a Buffalo Bill this year. Because that $45 million contract with Josh Allen kicks in, $25 million you're paying Diggs, see him. He'll be gone. This is the way the league works. You got 17 free agents. And you want to pay the quarterback $50 million, you can't have it both ways. The league doesn't allow that. Howie will work his magic. No, he won't. Howie worked his magic this year because the quarterback made $1.3 million. It's not magic. It's called adding. Howie Roseman didn't work any magic this year. He knows how to add. The magic was the players all panning out and having all career years. Brock Purdy, have you ever seen an NFC title game where a quarterback makes $937,000 and the other guy makes 1.3? And both rosters are the best rosters in the league. You think there's a coincidence to that? No, probably not. How dumb can you be? Some of you. Howie did awesome? Yeah, great draft, guy. Jordan Davis better pick his fat ass up. Okay? He was smart adding and building a solid roster. For the year, what's this? Yale, there's no foundation. What foundation is it? The quarterback? Okay. The O-line? By the way, so here, you basically, in theory, have 3 guys making $20 million on your football team right now. Your 2 offensive tackles, one makes 18, the other makes 16, and your wide receiver makes 25, and you want to pay your quarterback 50. Okay? That's $120 million in 3 players of a $224 million cap. You're not adding. You're dreaming. Three players are $60 million. Three. Put your quarterback with 50, 110 of your 224. Well, you got 50 other guys you got to pay. Look at that. Hassan gets 15. Tight end gets 12. Slay gets 18. You don't have the money. Or you do when you cut people or trade people. What are you doing? This is my point about Hurts. You've got to be smart here to keep this roster intact. The 49ers are in better shape than you. You know why? As bad as that situation, watch this. You know why the 49ers are in better shape than you? As bad as that situation looks at quarterback, they're not paying anybody. Jimmy G is gone. You got Trey Lance on a rookie contract. You got Purdy on a rookie contract. They'll probably draft another rookie, and they can extend Nick Bosa. They can keep Debo. They can keep Christian McCaffrey. They can keep Fred Warner. They can keep Hufanga. They can keep all those guys. Trent Williams. They got to the NFC title game with a guy making less money than Zach Pascal. Okay? 7 years, that quarterback position has hampered that franchise. You're preaching right now, not going to lie. Okay? Telling the truth, that's why. Just saying, listen, I'm not trying to shortchange Jalen Hurts. I'm trying to work with, why won't you work with him? Some of you people want him to take less money. I don't. I'm trying to get the kid paid and keep him in Philly with the best roster he can have around him, and you don't want to. Why? You want to be Dak and the Cowboys? Or do you want to be a contender every year? You're not going to be a contender if you all of a sudden dump all your money into the quarterback. I proved it to you. It doesn't work. Oh, yeah, if you have Mahomes and Andy Reid. And the Eagles don't. See, right here, 486 goes, Jalen will evolve into a pocket passer. That is such ass-backwards thinking. You want to pay a guy $51 million and still evolving. When you pay a guy that money, he's already had to have evolved. I didn't say less money. I am not going to hamper the roster with an RPO quarterback who's going to continue to get hurt. Facts. But I'm not going to insult him by not paying him market value. What is wrong with me sitting here wanting me to have a working relationship with a business partner? Jalen, we want to pay you the money. You're our guy, but we want you to have the best roster you can possibly have. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you 3 years on a guaranteed $47 million contract. We're going to pay you $140 million of it right up front. Give it all to you. Give every cent of it to you. And by the way, so you know, the owner here, if you want to put it in writing, if you hit particular numbers, we'll add additional years every year. Let me ask you guys something here. I talked to Lee Steinberg about the Patrick Mahomes deal. Let me ask you something here. You know, a couple of years back, Warren Moon had a deal. He was never the highest paid. Get this, he was never the highest paid player in the history of the league. But you know what he had built into his contract? He was never going to be paid lower than the third player in the league at quarterback. Do you know Warren Moon had his contract renewed every year and redone every year? When Elway got a new contract, Moon got a new contract. When Joe Montana got a new deal, Warren Moon got a new deal. When Elway got a new deal, Warren Moon got a new deal. Who made more money? I didn't say take less. I want a team around me, though. What's the sense of having $50 million when you have a lesser team and you're not going to go anywhere? What's the sense? What's the sense? Again, I'm not talking paying them less. I'm talking you guys want a hometown discount. Some of you keep, and we said it all year, a lot of you guys brought this in. Sills, you think he'll take less money to play in Philly? How about less years? But give him market value money. Seth goes, why would he take less years than Burrow? Because Jalen wants to win. Brady took less. But I'm not talking about less base. Jalen needs a team. He's on a stacked team. If you pay him what some of you want, he'll never have a team around him like he had this year in his career again, ever. Russell Wilson never did. Aaron Rodgers doesn't now. Shit. Go down the list of these guys. Shit, Patrick Mahomes doesn't. I'm not doing 2 years. That's too insulting. 3 years fully guaranteed, $140 million. Aaron Rodgers couldn't win at high money. Hurts won't be able to pull it off being a pocket passer. Does everyone think that Hurts is a better passer? Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest arms in the history of the league. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Okay? He's not. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He'll never be Aaron Rodgers. That's dumb thinking. Not you. Look at your career. Jalen is a star now. That's got nothing to do with it. It's about keeping a star team around him. Why in the world would you have a problem with me saying I want to pay him market value but try to keep his team around him? What are you thinking? Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Okay? Don't be stupid. What we're trying here, look, there's got to be a happy medium between Hurts and keeping the roster together. Hurts is a winner, has no bearing on this. Hurts has a ceiling. I don't know about the ceiling, but his ceiling of length of career doesn't favor his style of play. Mr. Credit says, Sills, your off is really close to what I said. 3 years, 150. I think they will push for an extra $9 million because it's a short contract. Yeah. Hey, yeah, what everyone? How about if you gave Jalen Hurts $50 million and you guaranteed $150 million of it? Is that insulting? And it's an extension. And it'd be 27. 50 million? See, I don't have the problem with the base. I have the problem with the years because I don't want the roster tied up. Tone goes, you're not saying anything wrong. It's not a bad idea to structure Hurts' deal that way. Some people just want to disagree with you, Big Sills. 50 million? My problem's not the base, it's the length. Rodgers is the example that might get through to crazy Philly homers. I'm a Philly all the way, but realistic. 41, great. Do you think Hurts will be able to continue developing into more of a pocket passer or possible Mahomes-type quarterback? Dude, to say that he's going to be Mahomes is, I think he could be the best version of Russell Wilson. I think you guys are right. I think he's developing into that early Russell Wilson where Russell was winning games and he was smart. Remember Russell sliding right, hitting the right guys, but he had a good team around him. He had Marshawn Lynch behind him. He had a good old line. He had a phenomenal defense. Then when they started paying him, they had to start pulling players off the roster. That's when his Jalen Hurts' development will start going the other way, the same way Russell Wilson's development went. He's an RPO guy. What you see in Denver is what you'll get. Russell Wilson was going like this when they paid him. Look at 2020. Hurts is better than Wilson. Yeah, you got to do a little more for me to go there. Russell Wilson's going to the Hall of Fame. Okay? You got to do a little more to just get to a Super Bowl. Like Tone says, you just can't put your name on the test. You've actually got to turn it into the teacher and get a grade on it. Okay? You don't get credit. That's like telling me, well, do you give Jimmy Garoppolo credit for getting to a Super Bowl? You guys hate Garoppolo. He's done just as much, if not more, than Jalen. Hurts is not better than Wilson. Russell Wilson, early on, with that team he had, how could you tell? Russell Wilson had a loaded team too. How could you tell? Stupid comment to even make that he's better than him. How can you tell? Russell Wilson had a loaded team. Hey, it's just Philly blindness. So I'm all right with that. Russell Wilson won a ring and he's got 2 NFC championships to his name. Look at this guy. Jimmy G was never an MVP candidate. Carson Wentz was. And actually, Carson Wentz was on a football team that did something in Philly that no other team has ever done. Actually, was one of the catalysts that helped that team win a Super Bowl. So you want to go there? Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate, got paid, helped that team win a Super Bowl. I could play that game too. Philly blindness. Wow. Well, you were blind all year on that shitbag defense you thought was the top defense in the NFL. Wilson needed a historic defense. Well, you needed a historic roster to get there. Where did Wentz wind up? You know where he wound up? In the millionaire's home. Now this guy's going back to Stahlback when they didn't have a salary cap. How dumb is that take? How dumb is that take? We're in a salary cap era, guy. Try moving it forward a little bit here, you know? Back when players were slaves and they had to stay at one place. Thank God for Reggie changing it. Guys going back to the Steeler days when they put their helmets in their back pocket. You break. We shall see. Hey, by the way, let's say this. You think they do this to Hurts? You think they address it? Or do you think they let him play into his last year? And here's something else to think about. I'm gonna take a timeout. I'm gonna write this down here for a second. This could be critical in the negotiations for Jalen. I got to look something up on the CBA. Hit the like button. Don't forget Gary Cobb from Fox 29. Keep it here, hour number 2 coming up. Keep it here on the National Football Show.